Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Brian E. Roach and Zach Metkler.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Brian E. Roach. I am here to, complain for the next hour and a half. Who knows? And we'll see how long we go. Joe is at the, I guess you'd call it a game, in Cincinnati. So he is not here this evening, but filling in admirably in his Vince William or Casey Hampton jersey, I'm not sure which, is the professor of football, Zach Metkler. Zach, how you doing, man?
It's Snacks, by the way. I've been rocking this Casey Hampton jersey for a while. It's been one of my go-to jerseys.
There you go.
Sure. Can't complain. I'm doing well, Brian. I mean, I'm doing as well as I can be at the moment, so.
I find myself in the position of just not even being able to be that upset because this is the team we've seen for the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
I just don't. I just don't know what else to say. We'll get it heavily into this game as we go along, and Zach knows this. I've been trying to get a podcast with Zach so that we can talk some O-line trash and we probably will tonight. The Steelers, of course, dropped this game 27-17. To be honest, the game didn't feel that close, but it could have been infinitely worse than it was. The Steelers turned the ball over 3 times in the first half and end up being down 17-0 at halftime. Just ugly first half. They come out in the second half. They tease you, think that things maybe are going to go and turn around. But I think that the bottom line is this team is just not in a good place. And whether it's because, the number of injuries to starting players has really added up. I mean, even on the offensive line, you're missing guys there. Whether DeCastro is hurt right now and playing through it or not, I don't know. They're just terrible. And, we said in the pregame, unless they figure out how to stretch the field, the Bengals are going to do what the Bills did. They're going to sit on these short routes. They're going to try and jump these short routes. They're not going to let them just keep dumping the ball off. And that was very evident in the first half. But, we'll start to go through this as much as there is to go through. But Zach, give me your first impressions after this. I stopped tweeting because I couldn't complain anymore on Twitter, and now I'm going to complain a lot. So,
it's nothing that we should really be surprised about. I mean, like you said, it's something we've seen really since the last Ravens game. They were very fortunate and lucky, and of course, like we always say, there's the old adage of, you'll take an ugly win over a good loss any day of the week, because in the NFL, all that matters is wins and losses. It doesn't matter style points like it does in college football, So you saw a win there, but really this was starting then when the Ravens, there was all the talk about the wonky build up because of the game being moved around and all the COVID cases from the Ravens team. And that's fine and great. But, at the end of the day, still they were going up against Robert Griffin III and then proceeding to go up against, Trace McSorley. And then going up against a bunch of guys who were barely on the practice squad before that game and things like that. And, you eke yourself out of this very close matchup. And then from that point, you go through and you start playing, a game against Washington. And it's like, all right, well, Washington is a very tough defense. And, we can make some excuses for that. And that's fine. Make some excuses and overlook the fact that it still was a very bad performance by the offense. And then last week against the Bills, it's the same exact conversation. The Bills are a good team. Josh Allen is an MVP candidate, blah, blah, blah. Still ignoring the fact that the Steelers defense, for the most part, did their job in that game. And the offense, again, was anemic and just, quite frankly, piss poor. And then you have a game this week against the Bengals, who who not even arguably, hands in a way, are the worst team of those 4 teams. And this was arguably their worst performance, and I don't really even think it was close. And you can put the blame on the defense all you want to, and we'll talk about it. You're a big proponent of it, and I agree with you that if your defense is on the field that much and they're running the ball down your throat, you're going to get gassed when your offense is giving you no help, and the offense is giving them no help. And I don't see any change in it. And I know people want to point the finger. I tweeted out people want to point the finger at one spot, but when this much is going bad, you can point the finger at Tomlin. You can point the finger at Fiechner. You can point the finger at Ben. You can point the finger at the offensive line, at the running backs, at the receiver. You can point it at anybody you want to. And because you can point at so many fingers, that shows you it's a systematic problem right now. It's not just one guy. It's not just Ben's arm falling off. It's not Randy Fiechner's play calling. It's not the drops. It's not the line blocking. It's the full picture. So you can't sit there and just look at it as being one thing. This is not a good offense right now. And quite frankly, I don't know what it is. I really don't believe it's just the injuries, because for the most part, the offense has stayed predominantly healthy this season. It hasn't taken the blows like Devin Bush and Bud Dupree and Robert Spillane and players like that on the defense. It's been predominantly healthy, with the exception of a few nicks and knacks here and there. But at the end of the day, something needs to change. I don't know what it is, because quite frankly, I think there's so many things going on right now that unless they take a hard look in the mirror at themselves, try to figure it out, I don't think it's going to change. And I think we're to a point in the season, we're going into week 16 of the 2020 NFL season. At what point do you realize the fact that maybe we're just getting cold at the wrong time and it's too far gone and teams have figured us out? And I don't know what the answer is to any of that.
Yeah, let me give you some numbers real quick. Here's some numbers. 1 minute, 56 seconds, 6 seconds. 1 minute and 38 seconds, 50 seconds. That's 5 drives.
Yep.
The first 5 Steelers drives. The longest one, 1 minute 38 seconds. And I'm sorry, I don't care how good your defense is. If you have your defense on the field in the first quarter for 12 of 15 minutes, they're starting to get worn down at that point. And it's just a function of things. So they get a little life, 6 minutes and 13 seconds on the 6th drive. But then it's 151, 58, 127. 5 minutes that ends in a punt, a minute 32, 25 seconds. What more can you ask of a defense that, if you add this time of possession up, is so overwhelmingly in favor of the Bengals? The defense played 3/4 of the game.
I mean, their first 3 scores were off of turnovers, and they had a total of 64 yards on those drives.
Yeah.
The defense can only do so much for you. It's the same thing. You and I had the same exact conversation last season because the Steelers' offense was having these quick drives, and that's when you started seeing that magical comeback season where they're 8-5 and then collapse at the end of the season because they start having the same exact issue.
Yeah, and again, it's not even just a week-to-week thing. At this point, this is carryover. The defense starts to get gassed quicker because they've been getting gassed. And, and there's a mental aspect to it. There's a lot of things that go to it. You start seeing the offense go 3 and out, fumble, turnover, fumble. And the defense just starts going, oh my God, what the, and, I'm going to say in advance, if I drop a couple words in here, maybe Joe will clean them up, maybe he won't. But this is the kind of game where this may not be the family-friendly podcast we all have come to love and enjoy. We'll see. I'm going to try. I try, but my normal language is not to not curse. I curse a lot. So we'll see. All right, let's just go through the first quarter. Here's the first 5 Steelers drives. Punt, fumble, punt, fumble. That's the first 5 Steelers drives. 3 plays, 1 play, 3 plays, 3 plays. What do you even do with it? They netted 2 yards in that time. 2 yards.
Yep.
And that's the first quarter. All right. Oh, gets better in the second quarter. 22 yards, 12 and 4. 10 plays. That ends in an interception. 3 and 3.
Yep.
What more do I need to say? I mean, look, it's terrible. And we may as well start with this. The fact that they're down 17-0 at the half, when you see that kind of offensive play, the defense did the best they possibly could. 3 turnovers, all of them resulted in points. Some, 2 touchdowns, a field goal. Statistically, this was the worst half of football by Ben Roethlisberger in his career. And I can tell you, and the beat writers were tweeting this left and right, this was the worst half of football by a Steelers team that I've ever seen on the offensive side of the ball. And I started watching them in the 60s when they stunk really bad, and I watched all of the 80s. Okay? That includes He Who Shall Not Be Named. That includes quarterbacks named Graham. And it was not this bad ever. That's how bad this was. Against a 2-10 team. I just beside myself. I'm going to let you throw in your 2 cents on this without getting heavy into the analysis, because we'll talk about that once we get through the drive sheet here. But what more can you say about that first half?
I mean, I tweeted it out during the game, and I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. I can handle losing. I played in high school, played in college, coached in high school, coached in college. I've seen wins and losses, and I can handle those wins and losses equally. And I think there's a lot that can be had from losses. I struggle to take a lot away from these losses because ugly football and bad, inconsistent football is just a very painful thing to watch. I don't even care if you're a Steelers fan, but just watching, if you're just a fan of football, like I was tweeting over the weekend over a tweet that just got a lot of surprising traction. I got, a lot of heat for it, talking about, not to upset Steelers fans, but just how much I enjoy watching Pat Mahomes play football. Like watching the Chiefs, even when they struggle, you never feel like the Chiefs are out of the game because it's just fun football to watch. Watching the Ravens and Browns game last week that went down to that last second, field goal by Justin Tucker, like that, even though it was a bad defense, it was just fun to watch 2 offenses just go at it and execute. And when you're watching the Steelers offense perform, there's nothing fun about it. It's painful. I'd rather get all my teeth yanked out one by one than watch them try to go and convert a first down instead of going 3 and out. Like, it shouldn't be this painful to get accomplished. And I don't know why, but it's at a point where I can handle them losing. If they would have lost the last 3 weeks, they were never going to go undefeated. If they would have lost to Washington and lost to Buffalo and lost to Cincy, no matter what their records were, and played their butts off and just had a good performance, I'm like, you know what? Stuff happens. It's an everyday league, any given Sunday. But the Steelers were down 3-0 tonight, and I never even thought there was a chance they were going to come back. And how many times over the last 17 years have we been able to say that with Ben Roethlisberger under center, we felt that a 3-0 lead was insurmountable? Like, I don't remember a time where we've ever said that. There were times last year with Duck Hodges, I didn't feel like a 3-0 lead was insurmountable. So like I don't know what it is, but it's bad football. It's not enjoyable football to watch. And if you're just a fan of football, whether take out the whole Steelers fan, if you're a fan of football, there's not a person who watched this game tonight and enjoyed watching it, unless you're just a person that hates the Steelers and love to see a team like the Bengals beat up on them. Because otherwise, there was nothing good football-wise to take off except how to not play an offensive scheme.
Yeah, there just isn't. All right, let me go through the Bengals drives real quick. This is at least, again, you're doing what you can here. Three plays, 3 and out. They get the ball on the Steelers' 20-yard line. They get a field goal. Defense is doing their job in the first quarter the best they can. They did have a 5-play drive where they missed a field goal after that. And then the Steelers give them the ball on the Pittsburgh 38, touchdown. Give them the ball again on the 26, touchdown. Then 3 and out and a 1-play drive to end the half. That's 3 drives that started inside the 40 on the Steelers side of the ball. So it could have been 21-0 easily. It could have been worse than that easily. If Ryan Finley had thrown better balls, it could have been way worse than that. If Ben had thrown better balls, maybe it wasn't going to be as bad. But still, you can say that all the way through. All right, so the second half comes out, and the Steelers seem to find life. They have a drive where they score coming the first drive of the second half that they get. I mean, because the defense does its job, gets a 3 and out. And the Steelers get the ball back. They go, 67 yards, minute and 27 seconds. Ben throws a nice ball to Deonte Johnson in the end zone. Probably the best pass he threw all night. Scores a touchdown. Chase Claypool tippy toes down the sideline on a screen pass to get them in position. That was the fireworks right there. That was the fireworks for the Steelers for the most part. They get a touchdown with Benny Snell on a drive that was a nice drive. Some runs in it, but at that point, even then, at that point, what is it? 17-14? Did they get that close? I can't even remember now.
17-10.
17-10 was as close as they got. So then it was 17. Then it's 24-10, then 24-17, and then 27-17. You had some reason to hope in the second half, but that's when you just have to start rolling back and look at this. I can't bear to go through it play by play. I know Joe would, but I can't because it's too ugly.
Yep.
I guess we come to the point where you start to just say, okay, what's wrong? I mean, I give the defense the benefit of the doubt. Look, even in the second half, you always know there's going to be that one drive where they let down. Just always seems to be the case. There's going to be one drive where they let down, and there was the Finley touchdown in the second half. That was crushing.
Killer.
Whether it was Alex Highsmith, again, as you tweeted out, I don't know what his responsibilities are. I don't think if Bud Dupree's in, I don't think that play happens.
No, Highsmith he had his eyes on the running back the entire way. I don't know if they were trying to play container or if they just sold the fake that badly and he crashed down there. But you have to imagine we've seen Bud Dupree make that play before where he doesn't get faked out and he's not going to let a quarterback like Ryan Finley look like Lamar Jackson and beat him off the edge like that.
Yeah, I just, again, we talk about what we're missing. There was a point, Ulysses Gilbert went out of the game. And then Justin Lane goes out of the game. Avery Williamson went out of the game. I mean, there was nobody left at some point to play. Gilbert had to come back in because there was no one left. They are so thin at inside linebacker right now. Yeah. If Vince Williams can't come back and get off the COVID list this week, they're hurting for certain there.
Next man up philosophy works great until you're on your fifth man up, and at that point you realize you're dealing with a reduced level of talent. There's a reason why those guys aren't starting, no matter how much we love them as people,
I don't even know if there's any men left. I mean, at some point, next man up stops when there's no board. It's, there's nobody left in the room.
Yep.
That's just what he ended up doing. I have no idea. But I guess what I was going with is this. Look, I don't fault the defense. Yes, they had a letdown, but at the same point in time, again, they're playing 3/4 of this game all on their own. And the Bengals played look, I'll give Zach Taylor credit. This was a well thought out game plan. They played a good game, basically mistake free. And that's what happens. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how good you are. If you're the one making mistakes and the other team doesn't make any, you're probably going to lose the game. And that certainly was the case here. The defense made up for as much as they could. I thought there's no. I'm just sorry. I got no grown ass man awards to give out this week. Even though there was a moment when T.J. Watt almost earned one. He did earn one, but I can't give it to him. Not after the end of this game. I just can't. But people are talking about the sack streak continuing. But let's talk about that. How do you not? I mean, this Bengals offensive line is like as patchwork as can be. How are you not pressuring this guy more? I get that what is going on with Stephon Tuitt the last 2 weeks? I mean, yeah, he had some nice pressures. We did say his name a couple times during this game, but he also got manhandled a little bit in the run game a couple times. They got gashed up the middle. I don't get it. I don't get it. Is it just that they are that tired?
It's the only thing I can think of. The one play that stands out in my mind was the I think it was 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, and it was the definition of just the who wants it more play. And they get a stop there. You conceivably think you get the ball back and you have momentum at that point in time. And that offensive line, who 9 times out of 10, this being that one time, would really have no business being on the same field really as the Steelers front 7 with Tuitt, with Hayward, with Alualu, with Watt, with whoever is at playing linebacker. They still should have been able to get that. And it was an easy push, and you could tell from the very get-go, the get off the offensive line they just wanted it more. And I don't know if it's and so many of those short yardage plays on both sides of the ball are always going to come down to who just wants it more. It's who's the low man, who has the grit, who has the leverage, who just has that fire under them to get the other guy out from in front of them. And the Steelers multiple times couldn't do that on defense. And I really don't think it's a lack of talent or a lack of anything except for just this dry spell. And I think I'm not one to make excuses, but I don't think it's without reason to expect the fact that we are now in how many weeks straight with no true bye week. And the Steelers defense has been playing so much over the last how many days, and that's including with the 12-day period with 3 games in it. And then when you start being on the field that much and you're playing so many snaps, it shouldn't be that surprising. I'm not going to make excuses for him because you still have to make the play. It doesn't matter how tired you are. It doesn't matter how many games you've played. It doesn't matter when your bye week was. You're still expected to make those plays when they matter and to be able to swing it, especially if you're going to have that much pressure on you as a unit like you did last year to go through and make the plays when you need to. You have to be able to go and make those plays, and they're not doing it. I don't know what it is. I really do believe it's just a pure lack of energy and a gain of fatigue, because beginning of games, for the most part, they've been holding their own over the last couple of weeks. First half last week against the Bills, they made it look like if the Steelers could get some points on the board, minus that pick 6, they were in that game. Same thing with Washington. That was a 14-3 ball game going into halftime against Washington with that last second field goal that kind of, you can argue until you want to. Same thing with the Ravens game. The first half of these last couple of games, the defense has been there and doing their thing. And the second half of these offenses just put their will down and impose it on them. And the Steelers' D just crumbles. And I don't think it's a lack of talent, but the injuries are piling up. Like I said, you can't do the next man up. That works when Devin Bush falls down. Yeah, Robert Spillane works as the next man up. Then Robert Spillane goes down. Yeah, you can use Avery Williams as the next man up. Well, then Vince Williams goes on the COVID list. Yeah, you can use Marcus Allen as the next man up. Oh, Marcus Allen gets hurt with a shoulder injury. Yeah, you can go back to Gilbert, who's already hurt, as the next man up. If Gilbert goes down, what are you going to do? Start playing Mike Hilton in linebacker? There's only so many places you can go that make that work. And obviously, I know Terrell Edmonds would probably be that next man up, but then you're making your secondary weaker. The Bengals receivers were getting behind our secondary the entire night. It wasn't like they weren't doing that. So the Steelers got lucky a lot. I look at that first play early on in the game when they looked at the play that Tyler Boyd got hurt on. He had a very good beat on that. He beat Joe Hayden, and if Ryan Finley throws a good ball there, that's a walk-in touchdown untouched. There was plenty of opportunities there. But the next man up mentality only works to a degree. At some point, you have to put your foot down and play big boy football. And the Steelers have done that. We've seen them do that in the first half, and they have enough talent, even when they are banged up, to still be an above average unit. Even with that next man up, they are still a top half unit in the league with all the injuries on there. But you expect your offense to give you something. You need to be able to get on the field and get energized up. And if they're not giving you anything, and you're not forcing turnovers at that, because, I mean, there was no turnovers. They weren't doing anything to get the ball out of their hands, so you're not even giving the offense an opportunity and getting yourself off the field. The best way to get yourself off the field when their offense isn't doing anything is to at least generate turnovers and get the drive to end prematurely. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That's the moral of the story. I don't know.
And I fall down to this, or I fall back on this. I do believe that there is a carryover effect from the number of games that they've played. I do believe not having a true bye week does have an impact. This is a long season, but is that an excuse for them? No, I don't think it is anymore at this point. But I will say, you combine that with the number of injuries that they've had, you still have a defense that's playing great, but then on top of that, you make them play over this last set of period, of 3-4 games, however many you want to talk about. You make them play so many snaps, and again, I can't underestimate the amount of the mental side of this, right? That once you see your offense failing time and time again, that is wearing in and of itself. And it is difficult regardless of whether you're professional or not. And I'll tell you this, in any job, doesn't matter whether it's football, whether it's something else. When part of your team is not, taking on their fair share of the load and playing or working in a complementary fashion with you, there are points in time where it's just human nature to go, F this.
Yep.
What do you want from us?
Yep.
I get it. There's a level of frustration that comes up. And people will complain, they're professionals, they're paid the millions and billions of dollars. Doesn't matter. Millions and billions of dollars, whatever, doesn't make a difference. You're still a human being. And I think anybody that has had a work life of any kind can empathize with that feeling of saying, I'm asked to do everything and they aren't doing anything. And I'm getting frustrated with it. And there's a point in time where that's fed up. They were tweeting early in the game, are we going to have a players only meeting this week? I don't know if it makes any difference at this point. We got to turn our eyes, sadly, to the offensive side of the ball. Look, man, the first half statistics were so god awful bad. I don't know if I even want to review them, but why not? So in the first half, Ben was 7 of 16 for 19 yards with an interception, a rating of 25. Flip the script. Ryan Finley had a rating of 132.8 in the first half. It's not, he had one touchdown, but he's 5 of 8. It's not even that he threw the ball that much. 5 of 8 for 75 yards. But, the drops didn't really seem to be as big of a part of this game as they have been in the past. Yeah, look, I'll give credit. Deonte Johnson looked like he had a nice bounce back game at times, yes. Right? He made combat catches when he needed to. He made some really nice catches at times on balls that I thought Ben either overthrew or underthrew or didn't lead him enough. And so I'll give that kid credit. I thought he had a nice bounce back game. Chase shows what Chase can do, but Chase also showed, he tends to disappear again, whether that's just because he's a rookie or whether it's because Ben doesn't see him. And we're going to analyze that to death. Whether Ben doesn't see him is a function of does Ben have time to see him? and go from there. Juju, people are going to just give Juju crap for the dancing on the logo thing. I don't care about the dancing on the logo thing. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Did he get blown up in the first half? Yeah, he got blown up in the first half. Was it a potential helmet-to-helmet hit? Yeah, but it was close enough that nobody was going to call it, I thought. And I don't know whether I knew as soon as it went to review and the challenge was that we were going to lose that call and it was going to be a fumble, but I don't know whether it really thought it was. I can't even be mad at the refs. That's how annoying this game was. I can't even be mad at the refs, and I'm always mad at the refs. Always, and I can't even be because this is just on them. So, where I thought things really. I mean, there's a lot of questionable play calls in here. Whether that's on Ben, because he did back out of a run to a pass that didn't work, but he also audibled into a run that worked really well at one point in the second half. But man, it was a tough first half. How much of this? I mean, I know you said at the beginning, when they play this badly, it's a systematic problem, and I agree with you. But I think that all season long, I've been complaining about the offensive line. I just have. I've been stating I'm worried about the offensive line. I felt like they played better when Kevin Dotson played, and they ran the ball more effectively when Kevin Dotson played. I think when Derwin Gray came into this game, they ran the ball more effectively than they did when he wasn't in the game. I think that losing Filer and losing Zach Banner at the beginning of the season is tough for this offensive line. I know that DeCastro was hurt at one point. And Joe and I have pondered this throughout the season. Is he really good to go, or is he just battling through? And he's not the kind of guy that's ever going to tell you. He's just going to go. But he hasn't looked like David DeCastro. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
He hasn't looked like that all-pro kind of guy. And Pouncey has had his moments looking good and has had his moments looking bad. But I don't know what they do well right now, because they can't. I mean, there was an overhead shot of one of the runs that I tweeted about, and I said, here you go. They need a yard. They get zero push. None. They got nowhere. Yep. And that's, to me, the way this offensive line, that's part of the reason they can't run the ball effectively or consistently, is because the offensive line does not get no push. I don't think they can pass protect the same way. As soon as Ben is dropping back heavily, all you got to do is overload them a little bit and the guy comes through. They are not effective at pass rushing. I mean, you've seen it. He's got pressure in his face, and that's part of why I don't think they can do these intermediate routes and these longer down the field routes as much as they need to. And the analysts were talking about, they got to hit a couple of those, or they got to hit one of those to get these guys to back off. At this point, I don't think that's correct anymore. I think they have to hit a number of those. They have to prove they can consistently beat you deep or beat you across the middle for teams to start to loosen that defense up. Why would you worry about it? Even if they got you once, at this point, they're going to go back to the dink and dunk stuff. The Bengals are not that good at defense, right? And so, yes, you're going to have some success against them. But they do have a really good, they have players who have a pedigree in the secondary. I don't want to say they're a really good secondary. That's just going too far. But they have guys who have a pedigree. They have guys we wanted in their secondary when we looked at them as draft guys. But, they have not played tremendously well. This is not the front. The front is not the front that we, have come to expect from them. And they're still getting pressure. I think Carl Lawson just absolutely abused Alejandro Villanueva in this game. It was, and it wasn't just him. You said this on Twitter. It's not just him either. No. A cornerback early in the game abused Alejandro Villanueva. Yep. Man, I don't want to be in the offensive line film room for that. No, that review. I get why Al bought a flip phone, man. I wouldn't want to be reading this stuff because I'm sorry, you look terrible. This was a bad game for Alejandro Villanueva. And I don't know. To me, this starts on the offensive line, and I think that the scheme that they run right now with all this short stuff. At first, I just thought, okay, that's just the way they're doing it, right? Now I think it's because they know the offensive line can't hold up. And this is one of those things I wanted to get us both on here and ask you directly about. I mean, they just don't look good. Did they just get old really fast?
So I know a lot of people keep wanting to point the finger at Mike Munchak's departure being why this offensive line has fallen off. And I'm going to tell you right now, get that out of your head. Ramon Foster, Marquise Pouncey, and David DeCastro were all in town long before Mike Munchak came into town. Calvin Beachum, who also had gotten a chance to start at left tackle as a rookie, was here before Mike Munchak got here. Mike Munchak certainly helped in making that offensive line be cohesive. He certainly helped with guys like Alejandro Villanueva becoming who they are, Matt Filer becoming who they are, and that's great. And he really kind of put them to that next level. Ramon Foster was an undrafted free agent who fought for playing time long before Mike Munchak got here, and you kind of had a feeling that he was kind of a guy you were surprised when undrafted back in 2009, and if he just stuck at it, he was going to be a dude. Marquise Pouncey was the consensus number one center in that class. David DeCastro was compared to being the next Alan Faneca and Steve Hutchinson type who had no business being there 22nd or 24th, whichever pick it was the Steelers selected them. Those were guys that are all pedigree, and they were great beforehand. Sean Surratt was here before Munchak was here, and he was here afterwards. He knows how to coach the room. Don't put this on the fact that Munchak left. I'm sorry, because if that was the case, I'm not saying Munchak was a bad coach. I would love to have Munchak back here. I think everyone can agree that he was probably the best assistant coach the Steelers have had since Dick LeBeau. So I think it's fair to say that, yeah, the young guys aren't going to get the same experience that he got, because also look at who they've drafted. One of my followers reached out and said that if they really thought about it, the Steelers haven't selected a high pedigree offensive lineman since DeCastro and Mike Adams, and they haven't. The only lineman they've drafted early on since 2012, we're going on 9 years now, was Chukwuma Okorafor, and they drafted him in the third round, barely a day 2 pick. We're getting to a point now where you can't build a line that's aging and hope for success off of day 3 offensive linemen. No knock on Kevin Dotson. I do think Kevin Dotson, probably if he goes to the combine, is probably not sitting there in the 4th round. He's probably a higher pedigree pick, and guards are always going to fall farther. But you can't hope to get guys like Zach Banner, who is a cast off from 3 other teams. I'm not saying he didn't deserve to get the start, but based on who they had there, he deserved to get the start, but he's not a premium offensive tackle. I'm sorry. I love him. I hope he stays in Pittsburgh. He's a great asset. He's a great guy to have in that locker room, but he is not the premier right tackle you think of when you're thinking of Marcus Gilbert or Marvell Smith or whomever. You're thinking of guys that are like that. You can't build an offensive line with aging pieces, with undrafted free agents and late day 3 picks. That's not going to have success. The age is catching up to them. I know I started thinking about this about a year and a half ago with Alejandro Villanueva, thinking that this was probably going to be his last year here. And I genuinely think it's going to be that way. Yeah, there was a point in time earlier in this year where he might still be the case, where he didn't allow a sack, but that doesn't mean he has been playing well. The Steelers were the least sacked team, and I think still are the least sacked team in the league, because they get the ball off so quickly, not because there's necessarily elite passing in front of them. And a lot of the passing grades you've seen, including from a site like Pro Football Focus, has been primarily because of the fact that Ben's staying upright. Ben's staying upright, and those guys are winning their quick matchups. It's very easy to get a good grade in pass protection because the ball is out in 2 seconds. It's out in 1.4 seconds. It's out on a screen very quickly. It's easy to have good grades. Alejandro Villanueva's age has caught up to him. When I watched him today, I watched Carl Lawson. My biggest knock on Carl Lawson coming out was flexibility. And he has become a more flexible pass rusher for the Bengals than he was when he was at Auburn, and that's great. But he's never going to confuse you with James Harrison dipping down around the edge at 6 foot. He is a guy that's going to be a stiffer edge rusher, and he's a power rusher. But if he didn't, he looked like he was Usain Bolt coming off the edge on there because of how slow there were at times and how clunky Villanueva's footwork was. He didn't look like the same guy that was a Pro Bowler 2017 and 2018. I do believe DeCastro is going to be a very similar to thing to what we saw with guys like Boswell, where they're quietly, secretly playing through it. And, I'm not going to sit here and ever question DeCastro's toughness. He's one of the toughest guys you're going to see. Yep. He's the exact type of lineman. If I were drafting a team right now, I would want to have as a guy on the field, in the locker room, and off the field, because he just does everything right. He'll be a Hall of Famer one day, and there's no question about that. But at the end of the day, he has to be going through something. He missed time in the summer. He missed time in training camp with some nagging injuries he was going on lower body, and it's shown this year. And he also is not a spring chicken. I do think he has some productive years left in his career. There's no question. I think Marquise Pouncey has some productive years left in their careers. No question. People want to quickly just out them because the entire offensive line is broken. It's not Pouncey. We've seen how bad the line can get when Pouncey goes out. DeCastro, we saw last year, was still an elite guard, and quite frankly, I think is still an elite guard now that's just dealing with stuff. Because a lot of the stuff he's made mistakes on doesn't seem like all of a sudden he just hit a wall and fell off. It wouldn't have happened that quickly. But they need, with these aging pieces on that line, they need to start infusing young talent there. You know me, Brian, and you are the same way. We're never going to bash our heads against the wall when the Steelers make an offensive line pick. We were pushing for Cushenberry last year early on, and that's great. And I think I'd be stunned if the Steelers don't address the offensive line early. I can't think of a bigger need on this team than young premier offensive line talent. But on the flip side, honestly, I'm not trying to write them off. I really hope they still can get to Tampa and hoist that 7th Lombardi. But the farther back you go, those premier tackles are going to be off the board. And you might be able to get one of the premier guards. But in recent years, we've seen guards start to creep up the board because of guys like DeCastro, because of guys like Zach Martin, because of guys like Quentin Nelson that come in there and they're absolute beasts. And teams are realizing that, guard might be the least sexy position on the football field. But if you have a great one, and there's so many teams that love to pull and do a bunch of stuff with them, you're set for 15 years. So I think, the Steelers are in a position where if they can get one of those top guys, and this is not a bad offensive line class coming up, in my opinion, just from my early evaluation, there's going to be guys that they can get to help out there. You're going to need to add at least one or two. And that's no knock on Okorafor. That's no knock on Banner. That's no knock on Filer, who personally I don't think is back next year, not because the Steelers won't want him. I think he'll get money someplace else. And I really think they need to move on from Villanueva. I love Villanueva. I think he's been a great part of this team. But the age caught up to him quickly. He's the oldest of those guys. He's 32, 33 years old. And, age and speed is starting to clearly catch up to him to be a left tackle defending Ben's backside, especially if you're trying to prolong Ben's career at all. You have to have that, because there were plenty of times where I agree. The Steelers, I feel like, were potentially trying to set up that deep passing game, and they had no confidence because Ben was scrambling right at the onset, and the Bengals were bringing the house. There's no question about it. The Bills were bringing the house, and the Washington football team were bringing the house. And the offensive line can't pass protect you. You can't, if you even try to set up the deep passing game, you're never going to have time to. You've seen Ben throw some ducks downfield, and it's because he's throwing them off of 1 foot, trying to avoid getting himself killed, because he's trying to keep himself healthy and upright. So the offense, I don't like to point fingers at one singular unit. I know I've been rambling on here for a minute, but I just think you look at it in theory, everything starts in the trenches on both sides of the ball. We just talked about that 4th down play or 3rd down play where it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. The Bengals offensive line just imposed their will on the Steelers defense. Even though it's a patch, mixed match group of guys, they enforce their will. Football will always start in the trenches. I know it's not sexy. The casual fan might not recognize that, but
Absolutely it is. It's sexy.
It is. I think it is. I have no regrets playing offensive line. I have no regrets coaching offensive line. And now that I'm coaching a skill position, I still keep in contact with the offensive line. So, it's something that the Steelers need to address if they want to keep Ben healthy, want to help get some level of a ground game going, and get back to that point where a couple years ago there was no question the Steelers were one of the 3, if not the best offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, it just is what it is. They're just, and I agree. And I said this last week when I was talking to Joe. You can't put this on Pouncey. I know people have been hating on Pouncey for a couple years now, and I don't get it, because I still see him make plays that other centers can't make.
They want to complain because he had a couple errant snaps last year, so instantly he's old and washed. That's it.
And he still does. I mean, he had a snap today that wasn't great, but Ben makes up for a lot of that, and I get that. And I said that last season too. Ben makes up for a lot of that, but it wasn't new. And I agree. I do think we're going to find out that DeCastro has been, and I'm wondering if it's a back, because I think that he had back issues earlier.
I forget what one,
and that was part of it is, but I can't remember. Yeah, I can't really remember. But that's a tough injury to play through as an offensive lineman. If you got a back problem, man, that's not fun.
Kills your leverage, kills your pad level, kills your leverage, kills any
everything.
drive you have from your lower body.
Yeah, and it would explain why he can't get any push, up front. So, I look at that and I wonder how much that starts this systematic process. Because like you said, Ben's doing things that he shouldn't be doing, right? He's throwing the ball off. He's not setting his feet. His footwork is terrible. But how much of that is because he simply can't? When you want to drive the ball, you've got to be able to step up in the pocket, right? You've got to be able to plant and move forward and drive the ball. And if there's no place for him to go, he can't do those things. So I don't know whether I could blame the mechanics all on Ben or whether it becomes a systematic problem because he gets out of the habit of doing the right things because he can't do them anymore. Not physically that he can't do them, but because of the situation with the line, he can't. And then that feeds on itself. You know what I mean? It's like a catch-22 twin. Now I'm not setting my feet all the time, so I'm never going to set my feet. And that's why you get these balls. When Ben throws a good ball, you can tell his arm's fine. I'm not worried. People are out there on Twitter. Oh, his arm is dead. He's dead. He's Peyton Manning. He's not freaking Peyton Manning at the end of his career. His arm, Peyton Manning couldn't have thrown that pass to Deonte Johnson. That was a touchdown. Couldn't have done it.
Peyton Manning in that Super Bowl run had barely a JV high school arm with some of the passes he was throwing down there. It's
not that. I think that the argument that his mechanics are terrible right now is a valid argument. You watch him, and they look bad. He is throwing the ball off of the back foot. He is not setting. He is not driving the ball. All those things are true. I just wonder how much of it is true because he is not in a position to do so and has now. They got to figure that. I don't know. You get to this point in the season and you look at things and we'll come out. Who we got next? The Colts next week.
Yep.
It's a game. I said this earlier. I don't know that there's a win left on their schedule. This was the win. I don't know if they can beat either one of those teams, the Browns or the Colts. Certainly not the way they're playing right now. They got to get healthy. They got to figure it out really quick. If they are going to beat either one of those teams, it's going to be because those teams make some mistakes. If those teams play mistake-free football and the Steelers play no better than they have right now, they're not winning those games, which means they're not winning the division. And they're going to go into the playoffs as a wild card. We'll see. Of course, we'll still be rooting. I'm not giving up. We're not giving up. It's not doom and gloom, but man, you gotta look forward and say, do I have a reason to be optimistic? And not really at this point. No. You have to see. Every game can be different. And that'll bring us to the running game. Benny Snell had a nice game. At times. He also had some runs where you question his vision. One of those third down and one runs, I swear, when one of the ones he didn't get. To me, if he bounces that just a little, there's nobody there, and he easily gets the first down. But instead of that, and some of that's not on him, some of that's on play calling. In the second half, it felt like outside runs, especially outside runs to the left, seemed to be working. I mean, he got some nice runs that way. So what do we do when we try and run later on and we really need it? We run up the middle, which hasn't worked all night. But, look, I've questioned whether Benny Snell is going to be a feature back, period. And I still don't, I know we got some Kentucky guys in the SCU back rooms. I can't remember who, but, because I don't know. I haven't paid as much attention.
Ryan Lippert.
There you go, Ryan. Yeah, that's right. It is Ryan. He's very big on Bud. He's very big on Benny. And look, I've been the Bud Dupree loss is massively hurting them. It's just, it is. I love Alex Highsmith. I've been high on Alex Highsmith. I think he's going to turn into a great player. I have a lot of faith in that kid. But man, he's still a rookie and he's young and he's going to make a lot of mistakes. And he is not Bud Dupree right now, for sure. But I don't think it matters. People are, what was the talk last week? Oh, let's get Marshawn Lynch. Give me a break. I don't think it matters who the running back is right now. With the way the offensive line is playing, unless it's a running back that somehow can magically create their own holes, what are they going to do? You know, they even question, oh, they're saving James Conner. No, they're not saving James Conner for other games.
He simply was hurt and not ready to go tonight. That's all that was.
It's all that was. They're not saving him. It's not James Conner would not look. I don't think James Conner has any better game than Benny Snell had. He might have even had a worse game.
Yep.
You know, I'm so frustrated with this whole thing. It is what it is. They are a bad offensive team right now, and that is as a unit. If you want to look for the lights of positivity, drops didn't seem to be as big a deal in this particular game. I do still feel like there's some concern with separation, and that's going to be a hard thing for them because as great as Deonte Johnson is getting off, you know, and breaking away initially, when they're just loaded. I mean, how many times were there 9 guys on the line in this game on the defensive side of the ball? They are not. This is not a great defense, but they were absolutely not at all concerned with anything the Steelers were going to do. They were not afraid of this team in any way, shape, or form. And if you have any thoughts that the Colts or the Browns are going to have any fear of this team as they stand right now, you're wrong. Forget the team that beat the Browns into submission earlier in the game. This ain't that team. Not right now. So,
and the Colts have one of the best defensive units in the NFL at each level. They're very solid. They don't have a lot of superstar names. They're a very solid unit. And if you're watching teams like Cincinnati do this stuff, you're going to tell me that the Colts are going to do anything different? Come on.
They'll probably put 45 up on the Colts now because we've said that. But
and,
you know, and we won't understand that either.
and we won't. And I will sit there and
I'll be happy.
Not question it. I'll be happy with it. People can twist part all they want to. I wouldn't care less about it.
Nope. So I guess we need to put a pin in this. It's just it's an ugly loss. Yes, I know Steelers Nation is out there in panic mode. And you probably have every right to be. I said it before the game. They lose this game, I think you can be very concerned about whether they can win the division at this point. Will it be a dramatic fall off? Sure it will. Is there a chance that they could end the season 0-6, over the last 6 games? I guess so. Or 0-5, whatever it may be.
Something that about a month ago seemed like it would have been completely far-fetched.
Yeah, I mean, there's every chance they go 11-5 at this point. But the thing is, they're still in the playoffs. So, and everybody starts at 0-0 in the playoffs. So you get hot, then they can still make a run. They got to figure a lot of stuff out, and most 99% of it is on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they are, like I said, they're terrifyingly thin at middle linebacker and the inside linebacker positions, but where their work needs to be done is figuring out the offense. So an ugly game, certainly not the way any of us wanted it to go. And man, do I hate losing to the Bengals more than anything else. Maybe more than I hate losing to the Bengals more than anybody, I think. Maybe more so than I even used to hate losing to the Patriots. Because at least you thought, oh, they're good. Even though you didn't want to say it, you thought, oh, they're good, and yeah, maybe we're going to lose. But this team stinks.
I never thought I would see Ryan Finley doing what he did tonight on the ground. Not the arm talent. Arm talent wise, Ryan Finley's not a horrendous quarterback, but it looked like Mike Vick and Lamar Jackson reincarnated out there with some of the option plays they were running. It was absolutely insane.
Andy Dalton did that to us once too, and
more
than once. It's just letdowns. So, Zach, you got any final thoughts? My only final thought is, I'm tired, and I'm tired of complaining. And yeah, they stunk tonight, but hopefully they get better. I don't know what else to say.
There's a lot of things that I don't know can be corrected. Run game stuff. I think, I'm currently a running back coach. I'm not going to put it all in the running back. And the primary thought I'm going to leave with this here is we've seen plenty of teams, the Giants, the Panthers, the Cowboys, the Vikings, the Steelers once upon a time, who had great offensive line play. The Rams have done it. Great offensive line play. It didn't matter who they handed the ball off. The Steelers had Le'Veon Bell. He wasn't available. They handed it off to D'Angelo Williams. The Cowboys had Zeke. If Zeke wasn't ready to go, they handed it off to Tony Pollard. And I forget who they had before Tony Pollard, but it was the same thing. We've seen this year with the Panthers. Mike Davis has saved a lot of fantasy football seasons because he gets it done. Now, don't get me wrong. These supplemental players aren't as great as the elite players that they're replacing. No one's going to confuse Wayne Gallman and Saquon Barkley. But at the end of the day, they get the job done, and that's because of the offensive line play. There's a lot of stuff. You can question Benny Snell's vision. You can question his burst. You can question James Conner's durability. You can question Anthony McFarland's ability to run between the tackles. At the end of the day, the Steelers, I've seen so many clips over the last couple of weeks of just errant mistakes made by the offensive line. And, well, Zach, you don't know what they're supposed to be running. Power is power. Zone is zone. Splits are split. It doesn't matter what you're running. Fundamentally speaking, the base run game is going to be pretty universal amongst teams. The technique changes a little bit, but when I see guys like, J.C. Hassenauer completely oversetting Alejandro Villanueva on the backside, and you see where there's a crease and it's blocked up excellently on the front side by Corafor, DeCastro, and Pouncey, and the play blows up because one dude makes a mistake, that's a fundamental issue in the run game. There's not many running backs that are going to be able to correct that. So I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff. And, it comes down to there are the flaws with that. There are the flaws with Ben. There's the flaws with the offensive line. Blame Fiechner if you want to. Blame the receivers dropping the ball if you want to. Blame Tomlin for not getting it all situated, however you want to. There's an issue here. And hopefully, I'm not going to give up on the team. I'm also not going to have a whole lot of confidence with the team. I think both things can be true. I'm going to continue to hope for the best, but I'm going to hope that, winter Phillip Rivers shows up in Pittsburgh. It's supposed to be cold over the weekend. We all know that Uncle Phil doesn't play the greatest in the cold weather. I say that, and he's probably going to throw for 400 yards now, the same way as you said before. But, I think there's reason to think that the Steelers can figure out and just get together mentally. They can do it, and hopefully they can. We've seen teams be in this position before. I think back to the Saints team in 2009, there's been a lot of comparisons between these two teams where they lost 3 in a row and ended up going all the way. In that same season, the Colts lost a couple games in a row and went all the way and lost to the same Saints team that did that same thing. There's reasons to think that if the Steelers can get themselves right, they can do it. But if you ask me right now, the Steelers probably aren't going to be favored in a whole lot of games between now and Super Bowl 55. Just the blatant truth of it. And if you're a Steelers fan, I suggest you don't listen to the media this week. Don't watch ESPN. Don't watch Fox.
Don't listen to us.
Don't listen to us. Just sit there and just patiently wait until Sunday comes around, because you're not going to like what the people have to say. And quite frankly, it is all founded and justified because of the fact that there is no reason right now to even feel remotely satisfied or confident in what we've seen recently, and just have to sit there and hope and pray they figure it out. And that's all you can do is hope and pray that they get it figured out, and we can see not, 2 more losses in a row going into the playoffs. You want to get some sub-level of confidence back. And quite frankly, 2 wins over the Colts and Browns is huge to help you build confidence and get some momentum rolling. If you lose both games, doesn't matter. The teams are 0-0 going into the playoffs. That's a tough loss. So you need to get momentum now and start building that up. So that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say about it.
I understand. So, look, we appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. I know that this wasn't the way we would like this game to have gone. This probably wasn't the podcast you wanted to listen to either. You probably wanted us to find some ray of hope. I got none. I got none right now. Other than the meager whatever remnants of at least they didn't drop the ball all the time. Look, hopefully they can turn it around. They're going to have to try. It's going to be a tough road. It's 2 tough teams that they got to play to close out the season. And we'll see. We'll see where we go from here. So again, Zach, thanks for sitting in for Joseph. I'm sure he had a milkshake from his advent calendar or whatever the hell he's drinking all these beers and heading, a miserable ride home. So maybe I hope he had a milkshake. from his advent. It's not really a milkshake. It's some kind of a milkshake beer thing that he's doing. I see it on Facebook all the time. It makes me laugh because I don't drink and I don't know what the hell, where the hell he's getting all these weird milkshake beers. But be that as it may, he probably needed it tonight. So again, thanks for stepping in. We appreciate. It's good to see you, man. It was good to see you.
Yeah, it has been a minute, and I wish it were under happier circumstances, but hopefully in the near future we can do that. And just wait, Brian. We get the draft season. None of this matters because I get to go to my happy place again. So that's all. That's all
you get to go to your happy place. I got to sit around and listen to all these people tell me what all this nonsense that I don't buy. Not you. I buy what you tell me usually, but all these other people, I forget it. All right. So again, that's going to wrap it up here on the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Brian. His name's Zach. And as I like to say, and Joe doesn't, it's chaos out there. So be kind.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.